What would you do differently if you only had 9 months left on this earth? And I want you to notice something. Most of us aren't going to start talking about productivity. Most of us aren't going to start talking about cleaning out closets or answering emails. Welcome to the Bounce Back Black Woman podcast. I'm Dell, coach, author, mom, and your sister along this journey of healing, growth, resilience, and living more intentionally. As Black women, we know all too well that life can break our hearts in more ways than one. But here in this space, we heal, grow, rebuild, and bounce back together. Because it's not just you. It's not just me. It's us. Hey there, my friend, and welcome back to Bounce Back Black Woman. Last week was June 2nd. And for most people, that's just another day on the calendar. But for me, it's more than that, because it's my mother's birthday. And most of you already know that my mom passed away unexpectedly in 2002. And so every year when her birthday comes around, I find myself doing something that has quietly become a bit of a personal ritual for me. I take inventory. I spend time reflecting. And I ask myself some pretty uncomfortable questions. Like, am I spending my time on what matters most to me? Am I living in alignment with the things that I say are important? And am I postponing things because I assume there will always be another opportunity later on down the line? And this year, there's one particular question that just kept coming back to me. What would you do, change, or decide if you knew you only had 9 months to live? And I don't want to sound morbid. It's not like I feel like something's going to happen to me in 9 months. It's just that I've started looking at life as this not so forever thing. So before you start panicking, just know that this episode is not about dying. This episode is actually about living. Because something fascinating happens when we stop assuming that we have unlimited tomorrows, eternal days left to our lives. And honestly, I think that one of the biggest lies that we tell ourselves, or that we quietly assume in the back of our minds, is the lie that we have more time. One of the most dangerous words in the English language is later. I'll start later. I'll apologize later. I'll take the trip later. I'll launch the business later. I'll focus on my health later. I'll pursue the dream later. And most people aren't procrastinating because they're lazy. Let's get that straight. They're procrastinating because they believe there will always be another opportunity, another season, another year, another chance. But life does not make those promises to us, my friend. None of us knows how much time we've been given. And if you've ever experienced significant loss, particularly unexpected loss, then you know exactly what it is that I'm talking about. You see, loss has this way of reminding us that tomorrow is simply a gift from God, not a guarantee. And yet many of us continue making decisions as though our time is unlimited. And we don't do that intentionally. We don't do that maliciously. We just do that unconsciously. And that is where the lie becomes dangerous. Because one day later quietly becomes never. Now let's get back to the question. What would you do differently if you only had 9 months left on this earth? And I want you to notice something. Most of us aren't going to start talking about productivity. Most of us aren't going to start talking about cleaning out closets or answering emails. Instead, we're going to start talking about relationships, people that we want to spend time with, people that we need to and want to forgive, people that we want to reconnect with. We start talking and thinking about experiences, trips that we've put off for far too long, memories that we want to create with our friends, family, children, siblings, grandchildren, everybody. Dreams that we've delayed. We start talking about legacy and purpose, the contribution that we want to make to the world and the legacy and impact that we want to leave behind. We start talking about things like peace and faith, the things that we need to settle within ourselves, and our relationship with God. We also start talking about the burdens that we're tired of carrying and refuse to carry until our very last day on earth. And when you think about all those things, I want you to notice what happens. Did you notice that the categories are not really anymore about dying? They are about living, which is really exactly where I wanted us to land. You see, the exercise began with, you have 9 months left, but it ended with, maybe I should start paying attention to what matters now. And that, my friend, is a very, very different emotional destination. Now, here's the difficult part. If most of us already know what matters, why are we not prioritizing it now already? Why do we stay in jobs that drain the life out of us? Why do we delay having the conversations that need to happen? Why do we keep putting all of our dreams on hold? One day, one day, one day. Why do we keep postponing joy? Honestly, I think the reason is because life gets loud and busy. Responsibilities pile up and bills need to be paid. Children need to be raised. Aging parents need our support. Work demands our attention and our time. And before we know it, we are spending all of our energy managing life instead of intentionally living it. And then one day we wake up and we realize that years have gone by. Not because we made bad choices. We made good ones and responsible ones. But we come to that realization because we never paused long enough to ask ourselves, am I actually building a life that reflects what matters most to me? Over the years, I've come to realize that almost every major decision that I've made has been influenced by the question of time. Not because I'm obsessed with mortality, but because I've experienced enough loss to know that life is fragile and unpredictable. I've buried people that I loved. I've walked through grief. I've survived seasons that I never expected that I could. And those experiences taught me something important. And my mission is to share what I've learned with you. Life is short. Not in a depressing way, but in a realistic and clarifying way. In fact, this realization eventually became the foundation for the book that I've spent the last year writing. I've mentioned it to you a few times on this podcast. It's called Ruthless Intentionality. And it's not quite available yet, but you're going to hear many of its foundational ideas woven throughout the next several episodes. Because at its core, the book asks a simple question. If life is shorter than we think, how should we choose to live? How do we spend our time? How do we make decisions? How do we build meaningful relationships? How do we show compassion without losing ourselves? How do we find the courage to act with bravery and abandon? And ultimately, how do we build resilience? Those questions became so important in my own life that they eventually grew into an entire framework. And that framework became the book. And despite what the title might sound like, the book isn't about squeezing more activities into your day. It's not about becoming more productive. It's not about hustle culture. Because any of you who know me personally know that I am not about the hustle culture at all. It's about alignment. It's about making sure that your time on this earth reflects what matters most to you and your values and your needs and your heart. Because the older that I get, the more convinced I become that ruthless intentionality is the only way to get to the end of your life with the least amount of regret. Notice that I didn't say with no regrets, because we will always have some of those. I said with the least regrets. None of us controls every outcome, but we do control whether or not we live on purpose. One of the scriptures that comes to mind whenever I think about time is Psalm 90:12. Teach us to realize the brevity of life so that we may grow in wisdom. And wow, notice what that verse doesn't say, my friend. It doesn't say teach us to fear life or teach us to rush through life or teach us to obsess over life. It says teach us to realize the brevity of life so that we may grow in wisdom. Because awareness of time is supposed to produce wisdom, not panic, wisdom. I know that this topic can make a lot of people uncomfortable. And the reason that this conversation can feel uncomfortable is because it forces us to confront something that most of us spend our entire lives avoiding: limits. We want to believe that we have unlimited time, unlimited opportunities, unlimited tomorrows, because limits force decisions and decisions force priorities. Think about that one for a minute. When we acknowledge that our time is finite, we can no longer pretend that everything is equally important. We have to choose. And choosing often means grieving what won't fit. And that's why intentional living can feel awkwardly and emotionally uncomfortable, because every meaningful yes will require other no's. I want to say that one again. Every meaningful yes will require you to say no to something else. So today, my friend, I want to ask yourself this question. If I truly believed that my time was limited, what would matter most? And then I want you to ask yourself this. What is one thing that I already know matters that I've been postponing until, air quotes, later? Because maybe the goal isn't to overhaul your entire life. Maybe the goal is simply to stop assuming that you have forever. My friend, life is short. And I don't say that because I'm trying to scare you. I don't say that because I'm trying to create some sort of urgency for urgency's sake. I say that to you because it's true. And sometimes the most loving thing that we can do for ourselves is to stop pretending otherwise. Pay attention to what matters. Spend time with the people that you love. Pursue the things that God placed on your heart while you can. Extend forgiveness where you can. Seek peace. Live intentionally. Because ruthless intentionality is the only way to get to the end of your one and only life with the least regrets. And as you do that and begin incorporating ruthless intentionality into your days, just remember, it's not just you. It's not just me. It's us. Well, that's it for today, my friend. I really hope this episode inspired, encouraged, or just plain comforted you. If so, please share it with a friend who might be struggling in her own healing journey. And if you take a moment to leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts, you'll help other women find encouragement through their heartbreak. Remember that God is holding your hand along this journey, and guess what? I'm holding the other. Life is short, so bounce back, Black woman.